The community is brought to you by Michigan Lottery. Good things happen when you play the Michigan Lottery. 100% of profits go to our public schools. Over $700 million last year. That's good for our schools and our future. Listen again next week at this time for another segment of Clearly Community right here on your favorite Clear Channel media and entertainment radio station.
1500 Detroit, Michigan. Motortown. Motown. The sounds of Detroit are on iHeartRadio. Move to the Motor City's finest. Smokey.
Smokey was given to me by my favorite uncle.
Stevie.
The ideas come from experience.
Marvin.
I like all the people at Motown.
Diana.
Everybody was trying to outdo everybody.
And more. Check out the sounds of Detroit on iHeartRadio or at iHeartRadio.com.
Dish's Hopper lets you skip TV commercials automatically, so you don't have to watch commercial actors like me anymore. Don't worry, you're not hurting my feelings. I'd skip you too if I could. I wouldn't even think twice about it. But the technology for an actor in a commercial to skip a viewer doesn't exist yet, so we're stuck here making small talk. Crazy weather, huh?
Watch commercial-free TV with the Hopper, the new whole home HD DVR from Dish. Visit Dish.com to learn more today. Only available for playback of select HD primetime shows and must be enabled by customer. Restrictions apply. Visit Dish.com for details.
Hi, my name's Bob.
Hi, Bob.
So I see this ad on TV. It says I can reduce my debt by 50%. So I call. They told me to stop paying my bills, stop talking to my creditors. It didn't seem right, but they said they'd take care of everything.
I gave them thousands of dollars, but most of it went to their fees.
Getting out of debt is neither quick nor easy. There are those who will tell you anything just to win your trust.
Sounded perfect. I did everything they told me to do.
They never paid my creditors. They didn't even contact them.
Turns out I'm even more in debt because the fees and the interest on my cards kept piling up.
Bad advice from so-called experts can make your financial situation worse.
And the bank turned me down for a mortgage. And that's when I realized my credit was shot. I should have gone straight to my creditors to begin with.
There is a better way to get help. Talk to your creditors directly, or to find a nonprofit agency near you, visit debtadvice.org. Debtadvice.org. Real solutions for real people. This has been a public service message.
Well, your dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you dadgum government.
And we are back. Good morning, Muskegon. This is EyeOnMuskegon, and I'm Jim Riley here at Muskegon's Clear Channel Studios without my friend and engineer, the legendary Oscar Osbo, because of a health issue. That ought to be handled, and we expect it will be, but we would like to send out our best wishes to Oscar and his family. We do expect you back soon, buddy. We do, however, have an excellent engineer-producer, Brian Thomas, with us, who will be making sure things are running smoothly and helping us out this morning in our quest for truth, justice, and the American way is our curmudgeon at large, Professor, in quotes, Andy Fink, and a new guest host today from MCC, a real professor, Kurt Troutman. Good morning to all of you guys. Thanks for being here.
Good morning.
Thankfully, given the average age here, we got an extra hour to sleep in, so everybody ought to be just perky as can be. It is almost election eve, and we're going to be talking about the upcoming election coming on November 4th on Tuesday. Big day for America. I think it's an incredibly big day for the state of Michigan, and a big day certainly for Muskegon County residents. It's going to affect your pocketbook. It's going to affect your ability to get jobs. It's going to affect an awful lot of things. I've been gone the last 3 weeks. I was in Europe for about 2.5 weeks. Also, I was out on Long Island in New York, and thankfully missed all of the troubles there. I see that the New York, the geniuses in the state of New York decided to have a free gas day out in Staten Island, and were shocked that in fact fights broke out and there were all sorts of messes going on. They actually canceled it, but they did, to their credit, they did blame the military for making that call. So that's the Navy SEAL mindset of the elected leaders, at least in some portions of New York.
Jim, that was the Department of Defense that put the gas out there for free.
It could be. And of course, one thing we do know is that the local government people are never allowed to say no to the Department of Defense. They might not have. Their input certainly was only of value after the debacle. But nonetheless, hey, we are a call-in show, and we are live after being recorded for 3 weeks. So if you want to give us a call, you want to support Andy's attacks on me. Could go a little. I don't think Andy needs any extra help in that. But give us a call. The number 231-830-3109. We'd love to hear from you. And I'd like to remind everybody, because more and more now, folks, even as we get to this election, but everybody knows that the election 2013 does begin on Wednesday, November 7th? Yeah, November 7th. And I will continue to be at Carmen's Cafe in downtown Muskegon on the corner of Jefferson and Clay this Tuesday and Thursday. I get there usually around 2 to 3:15. You're welcome to join me. If you don't know who I am, just holler, hey, where's the radio guy? I'm there, like I say, till 3:15. I leave Carmen's and go over to the county building for the Muskegon County Board of Commissioners meetings whenever they meet. So from 2 to 3:15, if you want to talk about county politics, state politics, any types of things, you want to talk about the radio, I'm more than happy to talk to you about that. And you are welcome to join me for the Carmen's Course. Food is spectacular. You can just get a cup of coffee or whatever. And by the way, just contact information. The best way to get in touch with me at the show, of course, is to call in 231-830-3109, 3109. But if you just go to EyeOnMuskegon.com, that's EYE on Muskegon, all one word. My home phone number's there. My email address is there. You can get in touch with me if you want to say nice things to me. Find out where to send a Christmas card or whatever.
Can't they use it for nasty comments, too?
They could use it, actually. Many have.
I was going to say, does it have to be only nice things?
Well, that would be my preference. But, yes, there are other options that you can go to column B if you're so inclined. But, hey, on this day in history, I found it kind of interesting. Well, what was supposed to happen on this day in history was the New York City Marathon, and it was kind of incredible to me that the mayor, who so is interested in big gulps and high fat foods and all, found I believe he's in his maybe 9th or 10th year as mayor of New York, was shocked to find out that there's an ocean right outside the city of New York. They've done obviously nothing to prepare for the storm surges. And I grew up in New York. We lived on Long Island. And I recall, as a child, hurricanes hitting Long Island. As a matter of fact, my dad had a boat and it sunk in a hurricane back in the 50s. And there have been 10 hurricanes in the 50s along the the northeastern shore of the United States. So they are shocked, I guess, when you're focusing on big gulps and fatty foods. I suppose that kind of blinds you to the other things that are far less important. Hey, but on this day in 1979, a very big event, an event that's changed certainly our lives here today, and that is the U.S. Embassy in Tehran was taken over, seizing some 90 hostages, and of course led to any number of awful things that we are now paying for. And of course in 1979 also was the last time an ambassador from the United States of America was murdered. And of course now we have another one just murdered 2 months ago. And hopefully someday we'll find out why. You can be sure that if the current leadership of President Barack Obama's party was interested in us knowing what happened and telling us how logical it was that the ambassador was murdered, that they would have told us. But at this point, it's Watergate mode, cover up, and hopefully we'll find out sometime after the election. Hey, a quote that I've said before here, but I do like this one, and it's very pertinent for today. Elections do have consequences, and those we elect, and far too often re-elect, have forgotten how government works and for whom they work for, and that an ever-growing, power-hungry state and federal and local government are not the answer to the problem, but 80% of the time they are the problem. And I bring this up not just because we've got this very significant election coming up next week, but you may have read in the Muskegon Chronicle, in the M Live, about a kerfuffle at the Muskegon County Board of Commissioners last week on Thursday, and where I and some others, I don't know, I think 5 people spoke, when they found out that there was a $1 million bonus going to be paid to county employees. People got up and said, hey, why are you doing this? And if you don't mind, I'm going to read what I said, because it's only about 2 minutes, but if you listen closely, you'll find essentially what I'm trying to find out is why the $1 million. The question was never answered. But here's what I said to the county commissioners. And by the way, the people that were there were about, I don't know, maybe 15 to 20 interested citizens. That group of interested citizens so affected the county commissioners that they specifically asked for and received an armed sheriff to come in to the county board of commissioners. The fact that citizens would be asking questions in a very, very peaceful and normal way really gave shivers down their spines. And a response to my speech and others came from one of the county commissioners who is up for election coming Tuesday as a county commissioner from the Fruitport area, Marv Engel. He directed his comments, this is from the M Live article, he directed his comments to the cameras that were videotaping the meeting. Quote, "If you feel it is important to threaten us when we're trying to do the best we can for our people, my name is Marv, M-A-R-V-E. Now, interestingly, that the mindset of the Muskegon County Board of Commissioners is that when citizens show up to question a $1 million check writing scheme, and that's what it is in my view, that in fact it's a threat to them.
Jim, who asked for the armed escort out of the building?
I don't know. Not out of the building. No, it was not an escort. The sheriff, the armed sheriff, came in to the county board meeting while we were there. He went in both doors, strutted around. I mean, he did what he's supposed to do. He let people know that there was an armed sheriff in the room. Again, you'd have to find out. You'd have to ask a little farther to find out who requested that, and in fact, why.
Well, was there even a request? I mean, the sheriff often attends these meetings, so perhaps that was happenstance.
As someone who's gone to the county commission meetings for 3 years, no. The sheriff himself, Sheriff Rossler, often attends, sits down, and occasionally is asked and then occasionally answers questions. This was not that sheriff. This was a very unusual event from someone who's attended those meetings. But anyway, let me read to you what so apparently angered and upset the county commissioners. Lady and gentlemen, surely you must know the exact amount, but by my rough figuring, today you will vote to spend $1 million or more on bonuses to county union and non-union employees. Just last year, another $1 million in bonuses was authorized by the same board, bringing the total to just over $2 million in employee bonuses in the last year alone. Mr. Longmire and Mrs. Wilkins, you both have commented about programs that would help residents in your communities but couldn't be funded because the money for those programs simply wasn't available. Mr. Jagger, Mr. Snyder, Mr. Skolnick, Mr. Engel, you are Republicans who tell us you are making sure precious dollars are spent in the most efficient manner possible. Mr. Derazinski, you've likewise staked out a position embracing the critical importance of making sure that every penny collected from citizens and businesses is prudently invested and not simply tossed to the loudest special interest group. And yet, we see county employees being laid off. We hear of the need to build a new county jail. Auditors tell us we need to address the $110 million in unfunded pension and health care promises to county employees. SAPI and consumers' energy tax money is soon to dry up. And we live in a county that has the only school district in the entire country to go bankrupt. So the importance of making the tough but wise decisions with the hard-earned dollars earned by Muskegon taxpayers is something real and close to us all. My question to you is simple. Why? Why are you considering $1 million gift to those who just received $1 million gift? How many laid-off employees' jobs could be saved? How many important life-improving programs could be funded? How important is it that your pledge to retired county employees be backed up by real money, not just empty promises? If a new jail is so necessary, where will the money come from if $1 million here and $1 million there is your spending discipline? And Mr. Gertner, that's Mr. Gertner of the Chronicle, and Mr. Gertner, you report what happens here to all the informed residents of our county. Will you ask the same questions to our county commissioners that they, as is their policy, refuse to answer in public? Will you report just what happened here today? My question again, why, when things are so tough on Muskegon businesses and residents, are you even considering $1 million bonuses? That is the end of my little talk. 4 or 5.
Maybe bonus is not even the right word. Maybe it is a payment due to people, the most important asset we have in the county, that has been long overdue.
Well, it
has been taken care of.
No, they were called bonuses, and they were called one time. And here's, in a nutshell, and certainly interrupt me on this thing, if you like. But a person got up and said how important it was for her son, who apparently is working in the county also, to get a bonus. I mean, people do like free money. I mean, there's no one going to get up and say, hey, I don't want a check. But the question was, we are hurting. The county has a history, a very sad history of making decisions that have not been to the benefit of the county, the residents and the businesses. A classic example is the county board lost the lawsuit for violations of Freedom of Information Act and Open Meetings Act. Interestingly, immediately after that lawsuit was filed, the county board chairman, Ken Mahoney, also running for re-election, said we violated no laws. Not only did they lose the lawsuit, they had to pay for not only their own attorney, but they had to pay the costs and fees by us, by the citizens. The county came out and said, Bonnie Hammersley said, this is after they did their $2 million loan to Brookhaven. County Commissioner John Snyder said, the loan will clean up our balance sheet, voicing his support for the proposal. Quote, this is being more transparent than it's ever been, Bonnie Hammersley, who's the county administrator, said in that same meeting. This is back in April of last year, or April of this year. And in fact, because of the FOIA lawsuit, we found out that there was another $1.5 million had been written just within the past month or so. So in other words, they're not even being honest with us. At the time when they're telling us they are honest.
That would be $3.5 million to the Brookhaven?
Almost 4.5. Almost $4.5 million within less than 1 year. And if you add up past years, it's far worse than that. We have expected our county commissioners to do the right thing. That's of course what Marv Engel says. You feel it's important to threaten us when we're trying to do the best we can for our people. But in fact, over the last 10 years, the county underfunding of the Employee Pension and Health Benefit Fund is $110 million underfunded. It went from zero 10 years ago, actually with a $3 million overfunding, to $110 million underfunding in just 10 years. Now think about it. That means that if somebody wrote us a check, Andy, I'm sure you could do this. You're from Connecticut, where lots of rich people live in Connecticut.
I no longer live there.
Oh, there we go. Well, maybe because you would have liked to have done this. If you would have written a check to the county of Muskegon for $110 million, that would bring us back to broke, okay? That would bring us back to zero, all right? We are $110 million in the hole. We've made promises to county employees without providing the ability to do it. So we don't trust these folks. All right, we just flat out don't. So the question was, why are you doing it? And the response was, and you can listen to the video, or there's a video and the audio of the entire meeting on EyeOnMuskegon.com. But the reality was that they said that we were forced into it because we agreed in the union contract that there was once a year, either the county or the union could reopen the contract. In other words, there was nothing in the union contract that required this. But in fact, John Snyder got up, County Commissioner John Snyder, also up for re-election, said, oh, no, we agreed to this in advance. No, what they agreed to was an opening, which is not an unusual event in the county contracts. But there was no agreement, unless there's something that perhaps Commissioner Snyder knows in advance and hasn't told anybody. There was no quid pro quo that something was going to happen down the road in those contracts. But here's the most important thing. Debbie Groneveld, who is, I believe, Human Resources Director, said very specifically, and this is the key here. She said, we're giving these raises, or these bonuses, or these $700 checks, in lieu of wage increases, in lieu of a percentage increase. And that's what she said. It's on video. We've got it. County Administrator Hammersley, sitting right there, essentially agreed. Pardon me, folks, but the union contracts, which I suspect the only person in that entire room, other than Hammersley and Commissioner Alan Jagger, have read, the county commission contracts are very clear. All union employees and almost every single non-union employee gets a step up, full-time employees, gets a step up in pay every single year. If you breathe, you get a pay increase. All union employees and all non-union full-time employees get a cost of living increase. If you breathe, you get an increase in pay. So what we had here is the administration of the county very carefully parsing their words and saying, in lieu of a wage increase. Well, I don't know what you call a wage increase, but I do know that if you get more money this year than you got last year, that's a pay increase anyway.
Well, that's what Kurt just said a moment ago, and you shutting down. But, Jim, it strikes me that bonuses can be subterfuge, as you're suggesting, and really just a way of giving a pay increase without it looking like a pay increase. Or bonuses can be an implied part of the employment contract if the bonuses are given out for performance instead of just timely. If these bonuses are a percentage of pay across the board, then of course they're not bonuses, they're pay increases.
Well, I think that your point is well taken, but let me add one other thing. The simple question that everyone in the room asked, and the reason for the citizens attending that meeting, the frightful, the fearsome citizens attending that meeting, was to get the answer to the question why. They never gave the answer to the question why. They didn't say they're working harder. We got fewer people working more hours. They deserve it because they're grossly underpaid compared to other people in Muskegon County in similar jobs. They never answered the question. And therein lies the ultimate problem that we have with our local county government, and that is we ask simple questions. Their policy, by the way, is almost always, well, it was certainly in this case, to not answer the questions in public. They were asked questions by Ellen Jagger during the committee meeting, but no, they never did ask it. You can see the entire. It's in two parts. You can see the entire meeting. It's only about a 45-minute meeting.
But I don't think you should threaten the lives of the commissioners just because they don't answer your question.
Well, apparently, it doesn't say threaten lives. It just says threaten us. But we're coming up to a break, and
I got a real big problem with television.
How's that?
Too much great stuff on TV, and my DVR can't store it all. So I'm writing angry letters to the TV people.
Why don't you just get Dish? Their HD DVR, the Hopper, lets you record up to 2,000 hours of shows, even if they're on at the same time.
Oh, yeah?
And that's not all. You can also play back all your favorite shows in up to 4 different rooms of the house at the same time.
So I can record all of our favorite shows?
Yep.
And watch all my favorite shows whenever I want?
Yep.
In any room?
Yep.
So what am I going to do with all these stamps?
You could write a happy letter to Dish.
Dear Dish, thanks to you, I have a brand new stamp collection.
Store 2,000 hours of your favorite shows with the Hopper from Dish. Visit Dish.com to learn more today. Limited time offer subject to change without notice. Hopper available with qualifying HD packages. Hardware and programming sold separately. Other restrictions apply. Visit Dish.com for details.
Life in the modern world isn't always easy. Sometimes your DVR records a non-HD show. Or you're on the couch getting a car insurance quote, and you have to get up and find your car's VIN. Well, not with Esurance Express Lane. It looks up your car info for you, so you can stay on your couch. Maybe never get up again. Infinite couchdom. That's insurance for the modern world. Esurance. Now backed by Allstate. Click or call.
Visit esurance.com or call 1-800-ESURANCE for a quote. Not available in all states. Savings may vary.
Tough Michigan judges who protect our most vulnerable from violent criminals, rapists, and child sex predators.
Judges like Colleen O'Brien, Steve Markman, and Brian Zara.
Experienced judges O'Brien, Markman, and Zara regularly hand down the toughest sentences to violent criminals who prey on the elderly, women, and children.
Judges O'Brien, Markman, and Zara have stood up for Michigan families. They have a combined 50 years of experience staring down and putting away rapists, murderers, and sexual predators.
O'Brien, Markman, and Zara are rule of law judges who believe judges should enforce existing laws, not write new ones from the bench.
O'Brien, Markman, and Zara are protecting Michigan families, not playing politics with the law like some other judges.
Colleen O'Brien, Steve Markman, Brian Zara. Real judges who've stood up to real criminals.
Learn more. Visit www.courtissues.org.
Paid for by the Michigan Chamber of Commerce.
It's your car. You take it to people you trust.
Don't rebuild or what, rip out your leg.
It's your finances. You want to go to the experts.
Cut your payments by 50%.
We've got to find a way to get out from under this debt. We can help.
The National Foundation for Credit Counseling is a nonprofit organization that has been helping people for 60 years. Speak with a counselor today at 800-388-2227 or visit debtadvice.org. This is a public service campaign for the NFCC.
Army Specialist Andrew Pike was paralyzed by a sniper while serving in Iraq. Paralyzed Veterans of America helped Andy get the auto, housing, and vocational benefits he earned. You can help our paralyzed veterans. Visit
Builders Co-op can do for your pocket. Get rooted and grow together. Located on Laketon Avenue and US 31 in Muskegon. News Talk 1090 is the talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry.
And we're back at EyeOnMuskegon. We've got Andy Fink and Kurt Troutman and Brian Thomas and Jim Riley. Hey, I'm here. I'm back. I'm live. Give us a call, by the way, 830-3109 if you want to get on the phone. Or you'd have to get on the phone and then get on the show if you're so inclined. We got a real short segment here. I'd just like to finish up on this kerfuffle at the county. The issue is again, there might be a perfectly logical reason for the county to give a second $1 million set of bonuses to the folks who are working for the county. But when asked the simple question, there was no one there who was even prepared to answer it. And that, to me, is the sad thing. The county administrator, Hammersley, said we're paying for this by reduced expenditures in the insurance fund. We feel very strongly that our projections are accurate. But a year ago, she took credit for saving $1 million with this new insurance company that they went with. As it turns out, those numbers only were $500,000 by the county dashboard, and now she's saying that the benefits from this good idea are now going to go to bonuses to the county employees on top of, and understand something, on top of an annual step up in pay, an annual cost of living increase in pay. Their health care costs, as we all know, go up every year. The county eats that. That's three bonuses, three increases they get every year, and that all adds up to go into their pension at the end. So to suggest that in fact they're not getting wage increases is just sadly it's a sophistry, which is a half truth, which is covering up a lie.
But Tim, check this language you're using. Bonuses, $1 million, unions. This is inflammatory language that really diverts us from the issue of $700 compensation to employees that are likely due that compensation.
Well, there again, it is intended to be inflammatory because we have an election coming up. You must know, notice I've not said these employees don't deserve that money. I've not said that. I've said we've asked the county commissioners why, and they can't tell us. The county administrator, why? She can't tell us. The county human resources director, why? She can't tell us. That tells me something. When you're spending $1 million here, $1 million there, and you don't even know why, then maybe come election time next Tuesday, you ought to think, be it a Republican or Democrat, you ought to think, you know what, I don't care who the other guy is, I'm just going to vote for him to get these bozos out of there. Because Republicans and Democrats, with the exception of Alan Jagger's the only one who voted against this. Everyone else, Republican, Democrat, as Bob Skolnick said, I got no problem with this. Second $1 million bonus in 1 year. I got no problem with this. Well, you got Tuesday to see if you got a problem with that. We'll be back right after the break.
Oh, don't you let me
sometime. Few things are as important to me as making sure my kids get a good education. In Muskegon Heights, we almost lost our schools, but Holly Hughes helped stop that. Holly sponsored the bill to help the Heights schools pay down their debt. She also voted to protect funding for all our schools. And Holly Hughes voted to take away rules that protected teachers who weren't up to the job. Colleen Lamonti opposes that plan. She says we should repeal the law that saved the Heights schools. They would have closed if Lamonti's plan were in place. Where would our kids have gone? Lamonti's plans are good for the teachers' union, but not our kids. Shouldn't kids come before union bosses? Colleen Lamonti's agenda scares me, and not just for my kids. Lamonti's plan raises taxes on middle-class families and seniors by hiking up property taxes. Let's call Colleen Lamonti at 231-733-4002 and tell her to put our kids, not special interests, first. Paid for by the Michigan Republican Party.
The talk of Muskegon is News Talk 1090.
Utility and big oil companies are running scared. The same folks who keep hiking up our rates by double digits and gouging us at the gas pump are spending millions on lies about Proposal 3. The League of Women Voters calls the attacks on Proposal 3 false, because Proposal 3 includes a 1% cap on rate hikes written right into the law to protect consumers. 30 other states have already passed measures like Proposal 3. In Illinois, renewable energy is reducing electricity prices, according to agency reports. Now Big Oil's saying Proposal 3 will create jobs in China? Simply a lie. Proposal 3 will create 94,000 Michigan jobs. Jobs will lose to other states and countries like China if Proposal 3 fails. That's according to economists at Michigan State University. President Bill Clinton is urging a yes vote because Proposal 3 will create 94,000 Michigan jobs and reduce electricity rates. Vote yes on Proposal 3. Paid for with regulated funds by Michigan Energy, Michigan Jobs.
America had just gone to war when Felipe Adams volunteered.
I knew what I was signing up for. I knew the consequences. I took a bullet to the side and left me paralyzed.
For Armando de la Rosa, the Navy was a chance to serve and see the world.
I got medically discharged in 2001.
Armando and Felipe were brought together by a unique organization that serves our paralyzed veterans.
If there was no PVA, it would be a lot of confusion. Our training is to better the veteran. We help out with the auto grant, the special housing adaptation grant, education, and prosthetics. Our main focus is spinal cord injury and disease, but we see anybody. First thing he had asked me before he even asked my name was I being taken care of as a veteran, and I thought that was pretty good.
Changing lives, building futures. That's Paralyzed Veterans of America. To learn more, visit pva.org.
Wow, this place is so adorable. I can't believe we haven't stopped in sooner. Yeah, it's really cute. Betsy, look at these sweaters. 2 for $75, and they look amazing on our girls. Maybe they would. I'm not sure if it's the right size. Oh, come on. You know they're perfect. What's wrong?
Suzanne, I have no business being in the store. I should not be shopping. Things are really tight right now.
Tight? Are you and Michael having trouble?
We're behind on our mortgage, and Michael is really worried.
Listen, Bill and I had the same problem a few months ago, and we got some really great counseling, and it was free. I'm going to email you the information as soon as we get home.
Suzanne, you're the best.
If you even think you may be in danger of foreclosure, call the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. Certified housing counselors can help you work through your problems, and the service is free. Call the NFCC at 866-687-6322 or visit mortgagehelpnow.org. That's mortgagehelpnow.org. This has been a public service from the NFCC.
News. Here's the official News Talk 1090 WKBZ forecast for today. Sunshine and clouds together with a high of 46. Northeast winds 5 to 10. It'll be partly cloudy tonight, a low of 29. Northeast winds 5 to 10. More sunshine expected back tomorrow with a high of 46 with light variable winds. And the clouds and a chance of showers for Tuesday at a high of 45. Looking ahead to Wednesday, clouds in the morning, sunshine later in the day with a high of 43. News Talk 1090, the talk of Muskegon.
A message from Orlando Bloom, Joel Madden, Nicole Ritchie, Neo, and Taya Leone.
24,000 children die every day from preventable causes, like not getting enough food or medicine.
Or clean, safe water to drink.
But we are gaining ground. A generation ago, twice as many children were dying.
Still, 24,000 every day?
I believe.
I believe that number should be zero. Believe in zero.
Join the effort. Visit UNICEFUSA.org.
Rush of energy that tastes great. New SK Energy Shots. Powerful, pure energy. Available at Rite Aid, GNC, CVS, and your local retailer. The talk of Muskegon. News Talk 1090. WKBZ.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you dadgum.
Dadgum government. Well, we get the government we deserve, and we are going to find out what we deserve on Tuesday night, maybe Wednesday morning. Actually, I understand that in some states, one state anyway, the absentee ballots or some ballots can be counted all the way through Friday. So in the old days, us geezers here remember the election night party. I think that the election night party is kind of the thing of the past with today's elections. Certainly, we saw with the primary elections last August in Muskegon County, they went well after midnight, and so we'll hope that we'll get some indication of who's going to win these elections on Tuesday morning or on Wednesday morning. But we're going to talk about the election with Kurt Troutman, Andy Fink, Brian Thomas, and me, Jim Riley. Let's start with the top. Kurt, I'll let you go first. President, the way we're going to do this is who you think is going to win, not who you want. is going to win, and why do you think he's going to win? And we'll just kind of zip through these if we can.
Well, certainly American people are going to win on Tuesday as they're going to re-elect Barack Obama and bring us closer to a full recovery during the next 4 years.
Okay. Andy?
I fear that Barack Obama is going to win, and that's going to be a disaster for our country for the next 4 years.
Oh, doom and gloom. There it goes again.
Well, doom and gloom, if you look at the real unemployment rate, especially if you are unemployed or a family member's unemployed, certainly the media, if this was President McCain, would be all over him for these unemployment numbers. But I would say none of us know, of course, and we're just drawing on the information that we can get from various websites. But I go to realclearpolitics.com, and realclearpolitics.com has all of the pertinent, all the more recent polls. It doesn't matter, the Republican, Democrat, what have you. And if you go there and if you look at the polls at the swing states, because it's down to about 6 or 7 states at this point, it seems to me that Republicans are going to have a landslide. You have to look at the numbers. Hey, we have three predictions right here. And when I say Republican, I mean the President Romney will be our next president. And what that really matters, and this matters very much in the state of Michigan, because if Obama wins, it's very, very likely that Debbie Stabenow will be reelected, and some of the left-leaning county commissioners, for instance, like Marv Engel and Ken Mahoney and others, will be reelected. If the opposite happens, if in fact Governor Romney does win and wins in the state of Michigan, then Pete Hoekstra has an opportunity to win, even though he's far, far down in there. But anyway,
Tim, I strongly disagree. I think we're going to see a very minimal coattail effect on this election. So I think regardless of who's winning, the down ticket is going to be individual, not a coattail.
All right, this is going to be great. In my gimped up fingered hand, I have a flash drive. And we're going to save this, and next week you guys are going to be back, and one third of us will be, or 2/3 of us, no, 1/3 of us will be happy, and the others will not. But okay, good point, Andy.
What was the question?
Well, just in terms of coattails, which I think is a very good point. I disagree with it, but
I think that coattails have an effect. I think it's a shame that they do, but they do, and I believe that. Michigan is going to be so close, and I don't think the coattails are going to swing the election for any of the other races.
Well, we're going to find out. I do know that the Congressman Hoekstra, who's running for the U.S. Senate, we'll talk about that next, but he was in town last week, and he brought up a fact that I had not remembered. I remembered that back in the halcyon, wonderful days of Democrat Governor James Blanchard, when we were in fact in a depression in the state of, certainly in West Michigan, on his, I believe it's his second term, or perhaps it might have been the end of his first term, but when he was running for re-election against John Engler, on the Thursday before the election, the people smarter than all of us, certainly in this room, and I'm way smarter than anybody listening, they said, all the pros said that Blanchard had a 14-point lead on Engler, and in fact it was going to be a blowout. And in fact, Engler, I do believe, won by over 5%. So many of these polls are so biased, we don't know. But okay, let's move to the Senate, though. We got Debbie Stabenow and our ex-Congressman Pete Hoekstra. Andy, you want to go first?
I believe Debbie Stabenow is going to win, and she will continue to support the big government policies that she supported her entire career.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have about 2.7 million experts go to the polls on Tuesday, and Debbie Stabenow will come out as the victor there.
Sadly, I will agree with you. I hate agreeing with both of you, in particular, Andy. I do think that Debbie will win, although I will say it's going to be a lot closer than expected. My question to anybody voting for Debbie, and this is, Republicans stood tall 4 years ago, and they saw the Republican rascals, and they voted them out. What about Debbie Stabenow makes her worthy of re-election? Can anybody say?
That's a fair question, and I thought Pete Hoekstra was a great candidate. I thought he ran a terrible campaign, and I think that's going to be his downfall. It's not her zeal as a legislator, but just his ineffective campaign.
Well, she has got 5 times the money, and part of the campaign is raising money. And apparently, there's a belief that that Pete was unable to overcome this. I'm not so sure. I sure hope I'm wrong, Andy.
John Bumstead, the state representative for Lake, Oceana, and Newaygo counties, spoke to my class last week, and he said that Senator Stabenow has a great deal of support from Republican farmers because she is so strong in the agricultural committee.
Okay, well, so she's achieved something that obviously some people, in particular, some Republican farmers like. And, of course, one of the things we found out with farmers, whatever you call yourself, what you do carries more weight than what you say. And we know the farmers are now essentially, in far too many areas, a government enterprise because of all the crop supports and everything else. So, all right, well, that's that. We hopefully will have a new senator, but we're going to find that out at some point. Hey, the next one, this is a biggie. Matter of fact, this may be bigger than all the others combined, at least for the people of Michigan. That is the Supreme Court judges for the state of Michigan. By the way, I'm looking at, if you hear me making paper noises here, I'm looking at my ballot from Norton Shores, and it is too gigantic. It's like 20 inches each page with writing on both sides. You still have time. Monday you can pick up an absentee ballot. and certainly please do your homework in advance. And I would recommend that you vote absentee because even though you might know exactly who you're going to vote for, the person or people in front of you might take 20 minutes each. And that line of 10 people might take an hour or two. So be prepared. But we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oh, good Lord, all sorts of different positions here. Kurt? Supreme Court?
Well, interesting. From a student point of view, Bridget Mary McCormick has been very successful in reaching a young person's audience when most of the time students could not name a Supreme Court justice. She's been very effective marketing to them, so I anticipate that will certainly be the top vote getter. Okay. And?
I believe that Markman and Zara will be reelected. People like what our Supreme Court is doing right now, but I don't have any thought about the rest of it, but I would like to make a comment.
Absolutely.
In the past, our Supreme Court races have had ads that were so disgusting, it made you wonder about our judicial system altogether.
Yes.
This year, the ads have all been upbeat, and they're touting the credentials of the candidates and not making up stories about the other candidates.
Great observation. I strongly agree.
Yeah, 2 years ago it was pretty sad. I'd like to add this. Essentially what you have there are 3 Supreme Court justice seats. In one race, you're going to vote for 2 candidates, and the other, you're going to vote just for 1. Essentially what you have are conservative Supreme Court justices running as a group. Those are Stephen Markman, Colleen O'Brien, and Brian Zera. And what I've heard, which I thought was kind of clever, if you are a conservative, if you want to vote Republican because you can't tell by the ballot, just remember Maz, M-O-Z, Markman, O'Brien, Zera. If you are a Democrat, a liberal, a hater of freedom in America at its core, that was a joke. You guys can, God, I thought Kurt was going to maybe cry, but he didn't. No, if you are a Democrat or a liberal, the other 3, which would be what, O'Brien, Johnson, and McCormick. So they kind of run as a group. There are other names on there, and that's why you've got to do your homework, because there's all sorts of folks I've never heard: Doug Dern and Bob Roddus and Kerry Morgan and all this.
Yeah, and surely these slates are not going to be elected in their entirety. We're going to see a mixture on both those, I think.
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I would hope that they are, because I do believe, as Andy had said, that people in the state of Michigan tend to be satisfied with the way that the Supreme Court has been going, and 2 of them are
freedom-loving people that Andy are talking about, or different people?
No, the intelligent tax-paying people. Hey, you're allowed to jump back. You can attack me. Anyway, we're having a little fun here now, but we're having less fun as we get onto the proposals. And the proposals, of course, you see all sorts of ads, and you got to really do your homework, I would say. At the very least, if you are still questioning them, go to the Mackinac Center, MichiganCapCon.com.
Is that the Republican Center?
It is a very conservative think tank.
Libertarian.
Well, I'd say libertarian, but it's conservative. But it will give you their view, and I don't know, Kurt. Is there an opposite place where liberal-thinking folks who want to get the liberal side of the proposals could go? I don't know.
Yeah, great question. Probably League of Women Voters, but no, nothing that's that direct or that opposite of.
Well, let's take them one at a time. First one is the emergency manager law. This would allow, because I believe it was overturned by a court, would allow the emergency manager to essentially to abrogate, to break the union contracts when they are brought in. Kurt?
Yeah, this is a referendum, which differs from the other 5, which are amendments.
Great point, yes.
But what this really, if you're in favor of the emergency manager law or not, and I guess maybe it gets down to, do you support democratically elected school board members or do you not?
Okay. What do you think it's going to pass or not?
I believe it is going to pass.
Okay. So in other words, we will have the Emergency Manager Act.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, I think that it's going to pass, and I don't think it's democracy, because what happened is we're talking about systems that are bankrupt, and so either we go through bankruptcy and have the court appoint a trustee, or we go through this Emergency Manager Act and have the state government appoint a trustee.
We hear that our state government is bankrupt. You want to appoint a trustee instead of the governor?
We're not allowed to go bankrupt, I don't think.
We've got a federal government with a huge bankruptcy issue. Want to appoint a trustee instead of the president?
Ooh, man, you're warming the cockles of my heart, Kurt.
I don't believe that bankruptcy is available to the federal government either. But bankruptcy is available to the creditors of the municipalities.
Well, it is, and not only the creditors, but also the employees, and it would be nice if the employees and their unions would have some skin in the game, as it now is, as we saw with the UAW and the auto unions, even though they were very prominent in the bankruptcy of General Motors and Chrysler. They had no skin in the game because the federal government came in and bailed them out. One would think that perhaps they would think otherwise, but I'm not so sure about the federal or about the emergency manager law either. We'll see how it works out. I suspect it's going to disappoint everyone when we finally get down to it. But Kurt's a very good point. This is a referendum. This is really nice because if it doesn't pass, at least, or does pass, at least our elected state officials will be able to address it, adjust it, and change it if necessary. But the next ones are proposals to amend the state constitution. This is 2 all the way through 6, I believe it is. The next one is I'll read it, a proposal to amend the state constitution regarding collective bargaining. Kurt, what do you think? So, is that going to win or not?
2 quick comments. First of all, as voters and citizens, I would not be reluctant to add amendments to our Constitution. That's a positive thing. We've had 170 plus amendments, so that would not concern me. Now, whether this is the right one or not, of course, is very much the issue. I am very much in favor of collective bargaining. I very much want to see this pass, and I sadly predict it will not.
Will collective bargaining go away if this fails?
I don't know that will go away, but it's certainly going to see a diminished right. I think that'll be number 1 on the.
But isn't there a federal law that specifically guarantees the right of employees to collectively bargain?
But we have this misnomer called right to work, which is really right to work for much less money.
Well, which allows employees to vote on the union rather than being forced to be a member of the union in order to get a job.
Well, no one's forced into a union unless the shop or the employment place chooses that.
Well, for instance, in Muskegon County, you can't work for many of the departments without being in the union.
But not all. I work at the college where we have many union teachers and many non-union teachers by choice.
Okay, well, fair enough. Andy, should this pass, or will this pass, and what do you think?
It won't pass, and it shouldn't pass, and if it fails, it will have no effect on the current state of collective bargaining. What it will do, though, is it will tie the hands of the legislature for making adjustments in the future. Plus, it will repeal a lot of laws, if it passes, repeal a lot of laws that are out there protecting the public from the power of unions.
Well, that's interesting. Okay. So, in other words, what you're saying is, aside from the repealing of laws, though, it won't change anything, which I guess makes sense, because if it fails or if it passes, we're going to have significant changes. But if it fails, we'll have things the way they are, right? It's not like there's anything going to happen negatively to the situation that we have in the state of Michigan as far as what collective bargaining is concerned.
Yes.
Okay, and we got a phone call. Let's take a call here right now. Alrighty, are you on there, phoner? Well, I'm not hearing anybody. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hey, there you are. Okay.
Oh, hey.
Caller, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Well, go right ahead. You're on the air.
All right, thanks. I just, my only caution is that it's too simple to say, oh, well, if you have unions, you're going to get higher wages. I think that's way too simple.
I would agree with you.
Yeah, we see that in some states. We see whether it's right to work or right to collectively bargain. We can see that higher wages, but what we can't see is that the workers who don't work in unions have much lower wages because of the higher wages of the union workers.
Well, there could be a carryover. That's an interesting point. Yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody here is. I don't think this is an argument over whether unions are good, bad, or otherwise. It's an argument over should union power and clout and control be expanded? Because as Andy, I think, correctly pointed out, if this fails, it's not going to change anything whatsoever in the state of Michigan. And one thing we do know is, and I think the caller has really hit the nail on the head, in many cases, unions do result in far, far lower wages and pay. And that, of course, is exemplified by what happened at SAPI, where everybody went from employed to unemployed, and their pay and wages disappeared. So that's a significant decline if you go from employed to unemployed. So, caller, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Keep giving us a buzz.
All right.
Okay, guys, let's take a look at Proposal 3. This is also a constitutional amendment. This one, you got to be for this one. This one, I'll read it. A proposal to amend the state constitution to establish a standard for renewable energy, which would mean that we would have to have renewable energy as defined by this standard by 2025. 25% would have to be renewable. And by the way, that excludes nuclear. So it would be, actually, it's very specific. It says wind, solar, biomass, and hydropower. Kurt, what do you think?
Yeah, very much in favor of it. I think we all understand that we have to move to a renewable energy, and we need a little bit of help, and this constitutional amendment will help us get there.
Okay, and do you think it's going to pass?
Very much. I do think it's
you
going
do?
to pass.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
All right, and Andy?
It's going to fail, and that's a good thing. This amendment is a disaster. It will increase the cost of energy to the people in Michigan, more importantly to the businesses in Michigan, and they say it will increase employment. I disagree. It will increase unemployment as businesses decide not to come here or not to stay here.
Well, it's clear that this amendment has enormous support among Republicans in the surrounding states to Michigan, because they know that their states will absolutely have a boom in employment, in business, and jobs if this passes in Michigan. They are of course, in particular in the adjoining states. Do we continue on here? Okay, all right, got a little bit more time here. Let's go to Proposal 4. This is one that's dear to my heart. We've had a wonderful guy from the Mackinac Center, Jack Spencer, has been really pushing this for years. This is the proposal of the Michigan Quality Home Care Council and provide collective bargaining for in-home care workers. This is a despicable scam. This has already taken over $32 million out of the pockets of home care workers who, for the most part, are caring for family members under Medicaid. This is a forced the SEIU union scam. This is an awful thing. I do not believe it will pass. Kurt, what do you think?
I think the scam is when you have employers forcing employees to work without any representation. That's what I think the scam is. So I'm very much in favor of this, yet unfortunately I do not believe it would pass due to the effect of marketing against it.
Over 95% of the people who have been forced into this union, over 95% of them are doing in-home care. These are not people working for nursing homes. They're doing in-home care of family members.
Again, I reject the idea of force. Nobody is forced into unions.
Yeah, let me tell you what happened. They sent out a postcard. And fewer than 5%, fewer than 6% returned the postcards, because most of the people, if you got a postcard saying, hey, do you want to be in a union, you'd throw it out, because you wouldn't expect that somebody's doing this. This was a scam under the Granholm administration. That's how they got into the union. To make this a constitutional amendment is the worst thing, frankly, I've ever seen government ever do.
It's a sham to say that they're employees, because they never thought of themselves as being employees of the state. They were just taking money as compensation for services rendered.
All right, good. There we go. Okay, the number 5, to enact the limit of new taxes by state government. Now, this is popular among conservatives, or at least libertarians, and this makes the state legislature have to have 2/3, which would be 67%, rather than half, which is 51%. In other words, if you're going to raise taxes, new taxes, not raise taxes, but enact new taxes, you'd have to have, instead of 51%, you have to have 67%. This goes into the Constitution. Andy, what do you think?
I think it's going to pass. I voted for it. But as I said to Kurt, said in his office one day, you can't vote 51-49. My vote is 100% for it, even though I'm very wishy-washy. I don't think that you can say it's a libertarian position. It's a conservative position, but I'm not sure the libertarians want to hamstring the legislature. They just don't want the legislature to raise taxes.
That's a good analysis, and I take back. I'm educated here. It's not a libertarian. It is a conservative, I suppose. Kurt?
Yeah, it's an extreme position. I'm not in favor of this. We just cannot allow a 34% minority to control our tax policy.
But don't we now have
one house?
Well, but don't we allow a 49% minority to do the same today?
Certainly. So thus moving that downward to a 34%, I think, is even more restrictive. I've got very little faith in the legislature, but this is one thing I would like to leave with them.
Is it going to pass?
It will not pass.
It will not pass. Okay. And the final one, this is the one about the bridges. Everybody now knows who Matty Maroon is. We even know what he looks like. Should the taxpayers, should the residents of the state of Michigan vote on any new bridge or tunnel, international new bridge or tunnel, before the money is spent?
Wait a minute. 4 years ago, didn't we have that bridge to nowhere discussion?
Well, and in fact, when people found out about it, we got rid of a whole bunch of people who voted for it.
Precisely. This is a bridge to nowhere. Let it go.
Oh, you mean you don't like the amendment?
No, I do not.
Okay, and
I don't like the amendment. And of all the, we've had dishonest ads for almost all of these amendments, but this one is the one that's most dishonest. I've read the contract that the governor negotiated with Canada. And this bridge will not cost the Michigan taxpayers. In fact, we'll make money on it.
Well, again, this constitutional amendment isn't specific to the bridge. Of course, the backing is. But I would say this: the reason the people have said, well, what's the necessity to have a constitutional amendment? The necessity to have the constitutional amendment in this case is because the elected Michigan State House and Michigan State Senate both voted against the bridge, and the governor superseded them and went ahead. So this is the only way I know that they can stop the building of the bridge, if you're so inclined.
Jim, I believe that the bridge died in the committee for the Senate, and it never went to the House, and it never went to the Senate floor.
Well, whatever, and you may be right about the exact vote, but the simple reality is the folks that had the ability to vote for it didn't. We elected them to make those decisions, and now the governor has stepped in and said we're going to go ahead with that. And
it's not the same bridge. It's not the same contract.
So is our governor out of line here?
Pardon me?
Is our governor out of line?
I think he is. Yeah, I do. But that's another issue, and you'll be able to come back educated, because we got news coming up shortly. And we will be back right after the news and all sorts of other revenue-producing items called advertisements. See you shortly.
Don't you let me sometime.
Green Lantern H2O, West Michigan's premier horticulture supply store, is celebrating 1 year in business. Stop in and learn what being part of a farmer's co-op can do for your pocket. Get rooted and grow together. Located on Laketon Avenue and US 31 in Muskegon.
Her voice was like no other. Her life and career were short, crazy, but her music lives on decades later.
Crazy for feeling
Patsy Cline Radio, a station dedicated to country music's first female icon. Hear Patsy Cline Radio on iHeartRadio or at iHeartRadio.com.
Tough Michigan judges who protect our most vulnerable from violent criminals, rapists, and child sex predators.
Judges like Colleen O'Brien, Steve Markman, and Brian Zara.
Experienced judges O'Brien, Markman, and Zara regularly hand down the toughest sentences to violent criminals who prey on the elderly, women, and children.
Judges O'Brien, Markman, and Zara have stood up for Michigan families. They have a combined 50 years of experience staring down and putting away rapists, murderers, and sexual predators.
O'Brien, Markman, and Zara are rule of law judges who believe judges should enforce existing laws, not write new ones from the bench.
O'Brien, Markman, and Zara are protecting Michigan families, not playing politics with the law like some other judges.
Colleen O'Brien, Steve Markman, Brian Zara. Real judges who've stood up to real criminals.
Learn more. Visit www.courtissues.org.
Paid for by the Michigan Chamber of Commerce.
I got a real big problem with television.
How's that?
Too much great stuff on TV, and my DVR can't store it all. So I'm writing angry letters to the TV people.
Why don't you just get Dish? Their HD DVR, the Hopper, lets you record up to 2,000 hours of shows, even if they're on at the same time.
Oh, yeah?
And that's not all. You can also play back all your favorite shows in up to 4 different rooms of the house at the same time.
So I can record all of our favorite shows?
Yep.
And watch all my favorite shows whenever I want?
Yep.
In any room?
Yep.
So what am I going to do with all these stamps?
You could write a happy letter to Dish.
Dear Dish, thanks to you, I have a brand new stamp collection.
Store 2,000 hours of your favorite shows with the Hopper from Dish. Visit Dish.com to learn more today. Limited time offer subject to change without notice. Hopper available with qualifying HD packages. Hardware and programming sold separately. Other restrictions apply. Visit Dish.com for details.
Here's the official News Talk 1090 WKBZ forecast for today's sunshine and clouds together with a high of 46. Northeast winds 5 to 10. It'll be partly cloudy tonight, a low of 29. Northeast winds 5 to 10. More sunshine expected back tomorrow with a high of 46 with light variable winds. And then clouds and a chance of showers for Tuesday and a high of 45. Looking ahead to Wednesday, clouds in the morning, sunshine later in the day with a high of 43. News Talk 1090, the talk of Muskegon.
Holland Hydroponic Outlet has it all. Complete light systems, hydroponics, ventilation, nutrients, and soil in Holland, Grand Haven, and South Haven. Check out Torched Glass Art Studio next to the Holland store, creating one-of-a-kind glass pipes.
Hunters, take aim on huge savings at factory surplus sales. Low factory surplus prices on Sedlock, Walls, Muck, Lacrosse, Carhartt, and more. Plus, factory surplus sales has fall apparel for the entire family. Factory surplus sales in Montague.
Hi, I'm Jenny Garth. Heart disease is something I live with every day. It runs in my family, and it took my dad's life. So I'm choosing to speak up, and so can you. Tell people how it's the #1 killer of women. Tell them one woman dies every minute from it, and that 80% of cardiac events in women may be prevented if you make the right choices today. Join American Heart Association's Go Red for Women. Speak up to save lives at goredforwomen.org.
Clutching the envelope tightly, I stepped onto the ladder at the bottom of the treehouse. Something caught my eye above me and I looked up. Light! It looked as if there were a firework display going on inside the treehouse. Crackling and snapping and whizzing sounds spun around above my head. Light shot out in sparks, dancing to the popping of noise. And then I looked up and saw... To find out what happens next, read Philippa Fisher's Fairy Godsister by Liz Kessler. Explore new worlds and check out more cool books at your local library. And visit read.gov, brought to you by the library.
Of your clothes, and guess what, folks? This will shock you. They want more of their hands in more of your pockets and in more of your clothes. So there's plenty of them out there that are interested in digging deeper, convincing you that they are far better able to spend your money than you would be come November 4th. November 6th. I'm sorry.
But I thought that was only for people over $250,000. I'm not in that group.
Well, you know, the few of us are, and I'm not going to get into that end of it, but I will say this, that all of us, whether you live in a little ramshackle trailer in Rothbury or you live in a beautiful house like Bob Skolnick does out on Mona Shores, Mona Lake, we are all going to pay at some point in the form of reduced services or in higher taxes because of decisions made by our elected officials. And certainly at the county level, when you've got $110 million of unfunded promises to these good employees, and you have an opportunity to give that fund $1 million, and instead you just write them all those checks, as you've said, Kurt. They're only 40 cents an hour, which may be the case. But what's more important, getting 40-cent an hour boost or solidifying the safety of your retirement funds? And apparently the county commissioners have determined that doing that with that 40 cents an hour is far more important than plugging the $110 million hole. But Andy, you had made a comment earlier, which I had forgotten, and then one of the county commissioners had, actually two of them, Republican Mark Molitor and Republican Captain Fred Birch, had put together a little comparison between Muskegon County and Ottawa County, and we've only got this half hour, so maybe you just want to jump on that, because it's really staggering.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, Jim, unfortunately, but it turns out that with a larger population, Ottawa County has a much lesser debt load and a much lower tax burden. Everything, and many fewer employees. Everything about Ottawa County government is smaller and less oppressive than Muskegon County government. And Mark Molitor and Captain Birch have put this out in some of their campaign literature.
Okay, and if you wanted to see it, you can actually get it on EyeOnMuskegon.com, but you can also get it on, I would imagine, just Google Fred Birch or Mark Molitor.
Andy, you're back to Jim's language. Government, oppressive. How about the people in New York City? I bet they're pretty happy for that oppressive government.
Actually, they're not. they're quite unhappy, as a matter of fact. And think of an organization that can spend more money on a bottle of water than FEMA. I don't think you can.
Government, by definition, restricts freedom.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, it's interesting. Again, if you're real happy. And I think this is a great, people say, geez, I don't know how to vote. If you're really happy with your government, be it the President of the United States, the Senate, the House, the county, if you think the potholes are being taken care of and everything is really working well, then vote to re-elect those people who are there. If you're not, it seems to me a rule of thumb, and I voted against Republicans a lot, the rule of thumb is if you're not happy, vote against them. And there's one election where there's, who knows how it's going to work out, but you wanted to talk about the something I'd missed on, which is our United States Congressman.
Yeah, important election, and A, I applaud the Democratic Party, Willie German, for getting on the ballot as a write-in candidate, and B, I chastise the Democratic Party for not having a candidate on the ballot. So I really shame them for their lack of actions during the primary.
Well, it's a safe seat. Again, I would say I'm a strong supporter of Congressman Huizenga, but I would say this, again, and I'm a strong supporter of what's going on in the United States House of Representatives, but if you are not happy with what's going on in the House, if you are not happy with what's going on nationally, you might consider voting against those who are there. It seems to me your voice is only heard for most of these folks every 2 years.
I agree. Yet we have many people unhappy, but we also understand 90+% re-election rate for incumbents.
Yep, and I think that's awful.
One of the problems with what you said is, well, we are unhappy with Congress. We're happy with our congressman. Everybody else's lawyer is a snake. My lawyer is a good guy.
Yeah, well, that's true. It's human nature, and that we have to fight a little bit against our own natures sometimes. Hey, speaking of human nature, let's go to the final proposal. And this, by the way, is on the back page. I'm looking at the Norton Shores ballot here, my absentee ballot, but it's on the back page of page 4. That's the last item out there. And this is the MCC bonding proposal. And I find this interesting because I've gotten two communications from two folks who are very prominent in our community who said, hey, Jim, I want to talk to you about this proposal, but I don't want you to say who I am because in my circles, it's not something that we're allowed to talk about. And it's not anybody sitting in this room, and not at all. No, these are people that have contacted me over the last couple of weeks. Actually, one was even before we went on our vacation. And essentially the crux was that this bond millage is right on top of the other huge bond millage that they passed some years back. I believe it was in the $25 million, whatever, that has been extended. But I would say this. here's my complaint with MCC, and I think, don't get me wrong, I think MCC and Baker do a wonderful job in so many things. But one of the things that's happened, and they don't tell us, and when somebody doesn't tell you the full story, then you start to question literally everything they tell you. They'll say, hey, we've had the same bond millage forever, and oh, geez, we really need the money. Well, number one, the bond millage is based on the value of real estate, which, notwithstanding the declines of late, real estate's gone up significantly since the original bond millage came about. So, in fact, more money is coming in. But far more importantly, MCC, Baker, and the rest of them all get tons and tons and tons of money from the federal government and the state government in the form of grants, in the form of, their students get it, in the form of grants and loans and any number. And we all know what's happened to tuition. It's gone up like crazy. Until I'm going to vote for an MCC millage, I'm going to want to know what they've done with all their money. Because when they come and say, hey, we've had the same money for, the same millage for 20 years, and they're not going to mention all the other ways where they've had increases over increases over increases, I'm going to say, hold on, let's vote this down. Let's get some answers, just like I tried to get from the county commissioners. Let's get some answers as what you've done with the rest of the money. Convince us.
Of course, my response to you is, if you're truly interested in the MCC budget, you could have gotten that. But
I'm not. I'm just going to vote no.
But yes, and that's going to be my real point. MCC has done a very poor job of selling this. They haven't explained to us what the difference is between what their school will be like with it or what the school will be like without it. And they talk about the downtown campus, and they haven't explained why that promotes education for the students.
Okay.
But this millage is not about the MCC administration. It is about the 5,300 students that are out there and the many more thousands of students that will be coming in future years.
But what benefit will these students that you just referred to get from this $31 million?
Well, the primary benefit is a couple of places. First and foremost, upgrading our science and technology labs. We have laboratory facilities out at the college that were wonderful in their day, but they're far outdated. And sciences are so essential to the 21st century education. So that's the most important thing.
On that one.
Okay, and I would say that I would agree with everything except Cheezo Pete's. You couldn't do it. You couldn't fix it for less than $31 million. Okay, hey, let's go to by the way, this one is the last one on page 4. So please, when you vote, you got to understand, you got to do your homework. Real quickly, let's look at state rep. Holly Hughes is running a really tough race against Colleen Lamonti. Holly is our current state rep in, I don't know what the district is, 91st, which is Norton Shores anyway for me. And she's a Republican. Colleen Lamonti seems to be shoveling in the money right along with Holly in terms of ads and all. Who do you think is going to win? Kurt?
Well, I think this race is very close, as we know. I'd have to go with the incumbent Holly Hughes.
Holy garbanzo beans.
I think Holly's going to win. I'm going to go back to the comment I made, though, about the Supreme Court race. The ads this time have been far less offensive than in the past. In the past, we've seen ads that were just outrageous on both sides in this race. As near as I can tell, though, that one of Holly's biggest defects as a legislator is that she and her husband successfully built a business, and that somehow makes her unqualified to be a legislator.
Well, to some people, that is offensive. And then, of course, one of the benefits or one of the results of building a business and being successful is, in fact, that you make oodles of money. And again, that's even more offensive to some folks. So, I think Holly's going to win it. I don't think it's going to be that close. Again, it'd be interesting when we come back next week, the coattail effect, to see how that works out. How about the other one? Real simple race. Because we don't have a real significant challenger.
Yeah, in the 92nd District, Marcia Hovey Wright is the incumbent, and Travis Shepard is running against her, and clearly that's a race where it is such a non-competitive district, we've got to go with the Democrat there, Marcia Hovey Wright.
She's going to win that, I think.
I don't think there's anything that Marcia could do that would avoid winning this race, and it's shown by the total lack of money being put into the race by both sides.
Well, you had I won't even go on to that one. I agree. That's a no-brainer. We'll finish up with the county commissioners, maybe. Let's go quickly to the relatively easy ones. The sheriff, Sheriff Rossler, was renominated. He's running against, I believe, is it a Republican?
No, he's unaffiliated.
Okay, unaffiliated, which seems odd to me because one of the things that really helps people, especially those who don't have a big base to advertise and all, is the straight ticket voting. Any thoughts on the sheriff's race?
Yes, and I have to ask, why do the Republicans not put forth a candidate?
We really like Dean Rossler.
That's a great reason. So a little bit of bipartisanship, I guess, being shown by the Republicans.
I didn't give you the official Republican position, but I believe that that is the truth, and the Republicans didn't go out looking for a candidate because we have no complaint with what Sheriff Rossler is doing.
Actually, I think a lot of Republicans have a complaint. It may not be the high level in the Rose Garden Republicans in Muskegon County that Andy hangs out with, but the blue collar retired working guy Republicans are not happy with Rossler at all. I think the answer to your question, though, is we don't know. It's very hard. People, one of the things about the sheriff, and I would say the treasurer also, is that people say, hey, wait a minute, it's a management job, and experience does matter in those jobs. And certainly if you're a sheriff, it's very hard to get someone who's been a sheriff for a long time, who's got experience and knowledge of the issue, who's not a hardcore Democrat. Anyway. And
Grassmeyer's only qualification, as near as I can tell from his campaign, is that he's a veteran.
Yeah, he's not made a compelling case for that. Now, I would say there's a compelling case here for the treasurer. This is a long-termer. Tony Malaziotta's been in his office, and he has been involved in some scandals and some folks getting fired because apparently somebody wasn't watching the store as embezzlement was going on, and there's some very, very clear issues that ought to be exposed and will be exposed this next year about the management of the land bank. But Tony Malaziotis, the long-term incumbent, is being challenged by actually the chairman of the local Tea Party here on the Republican ticket, Eric Rodoff. Thoughts, Andy?
Yeah. I like Eric a lot, and I voted for him. The incumbent's going to win.
Okay.
Clearly the incumbent's going to win, and I guess I would caution you with words like embezzlement. That's perhaps not a fair charge.
Someone was fired for embezzlement.
But that someone was not the treasurer.
Oh, true. No, let's be clear. I don't think there's been no indication at all of any personal misdeeds at all. Just you're a manager. When people are stealing from the county, it seems to me, ought to reflect on the manager. But
and that's a fair statement. Really, that is fair. But just to be clear, it did not involve the current treasurer.
I'm glad you clarified that, and I think we all agree it's probably going to be Tony. But I'll tell you this: we've been surprised before. The county clerk. Now, this is an interesting a race, I think, because we've got long-term and quite frankly, I think very, very popular county clerk. I would say arguably, in terms of popularity, one of the most popular politicians in all of Muskegon County, and that's Nancy Waters. She's running again, and she's being challenged by another, I would say, equally popular and excellent person, Republican Sidney Fairfield. Andy?
Well, Sidney Fairfield is cuter.
Okay. Well, I think we'll all agree on that.
And I think that Nancy Waters is going to win.
See, with four guys in the studio, how long it took us this long to get to
a little sexism here?
Yeah, exactly.
I've got no responsibility there.
Okay, except you do have a big blank-eating grin, so...
Fair enough. It's interesting. I've had both candidates in my classroom, and students have grilled them both with lots of good questions.
Oh, okay.
And Cindy Fairfield is very, very attractive to young people as far as students have really gone out to help and work on her campaigns. I think Nancy Waters is clearly the favorite here, and I'd be surprised if it was anything other than Nancy Waters returning.
I suspect. Well, this is a Democrat county, and it's very likely, I think, that Nancy will win. But well, like I say, when you got people that have run hard, tough campaigns, any number of different things can happen. I'm not going to get into the rest of them for the most part.
Well, I would like to ask Andy, once again with the prosecutor, why did your party not field a candidate? We've got DJ Hilson, who is going to be anointed prosecutor without an election.
The Republican Party in Muskegon County has not done a good job of going out and soliciting candidates and training people to become candidates and encouraging them to run. And no lawyer in the Republican Party who would claim to be a Republican wanted to become a prosecutor with enough desire to run a campaign.
Yeah, that's part of the problem.
To you, Andy, would like to see you on the ballot.
I'm not licensed in Michigan.
There we go. Hey, well, actually, I'm not sure that you have to be a licensed attorney to be a prosecutor, because essentially it's a management job. But it looks like that one's kind of a done deal. Hey, I'd like to say something about, I don't want to get into the regents and the trustees of Michigan State University and the regents, but simply this. They all, for the most part, looks like they all are running on political parties. And so parties do matter sometimes. Let's say most of the time, or at least part of the time. I don't know the first thing about any of these folks running for the regents or the trustees of U of M and Michigan State. But I do know that people who choose to affiliate with the Republican Party tend to have different views and make different decisions than people who affiliate with the Democrat Party. In the absence of any specific information, if you are a liberal or you are a Democrat, seems to me it makes perfect sense to go out and vote for the Democrat, and the same with Republicans when you come to that situation. Again, because people make a conscious decision to affiliate with a party. I think that's one of the areas where parties are very helpful. Maybe you don't know anything about the state rep or who knows, whatever. But if there's an R or a D by the name, it gives you some sense that, again, because that candidate has chosen to make that affiliation.
I wish that we would just have boards in these colleges who weren't rubber stamps for their presidents.
Okay, well, I would agree with that. Again, the university system is one of the bigger scams in the country in terms of huge amounts of money pouring in, tuition's going through the roof, folks encouraged to enter into curriculums that have absolutely no hope of providing them with jobs that will pay off their loans. It seems to me there's a responsibility out there. I wish I had a better answer on it. Hey, we're running a little short on time here. Let's finish off with the county commissioners. Many of the races are already done. I think one of the couple of the biggest ones, Marv Engel, the Republican, Marv Engel is running against Democrat Lou Collins. They're both incumbents. That's in the Fruitport area there. They've combined that district. Lou and Marv have voted exactly the same on almost every single spending item for the 10 years that they've been there, or for however many years they've been there. My view has always been, and I'm a conservative Republican, the term rhino, which is Republican in name only. Marv is a classic rhino. He's voted, again, he's taking a Republican position and yet voting it as if he were a Democrat. I would recommend, and I can't tell you who's going to win because this is going to be quite close, I expect, but I'd recommend that if you're a Republican that you vote for Lou Collins. If you're a Democrat, you vote for Lou Collins, because that would at least open up that seat for a real conservative, real Republican to run 2 years from now. But any thoughts on that?
Well, I totally agree with your voting, but probably for different reasons.
For a different reason, okay. Andy?
I'm the vice chairman of the Republican Party. I reject your position.
Well, okay, there we go. And that's how we get new people into the party is when you do have the primary challenges, and when in fact you do affirmatively vote for somebody of the other party. In particular, if they all vote the same. And it's one thing if you disagree with a vote occasionally, but if in fact the voting is identical. I would say the same situation would go with Republican John Snyder running against what's the fellow?
Sabo.
Terry Sabo. Terry, the Democrat, John Snyder, very long-term Republicans, voted exactly the same as Lou Collins and Marv Engel. And Terry Sabo's actually come out and said that he very much respects John Snyder and would probably vote the same way. So because of my rhino view, I think that we ought to open up that spot and vote for Sabo, although I don't know why a Democrat would want to vote for someone who said he would vote the same way as a Republican. So it's...
I agree, again, slightly for different reasons. I'd like to see Terry Sabo win just simply to change commissioners. John has done a wonderful job for the district. We'd like to see a change.
Okay. Andy?
I'm going to take that as an endorsement of Fred Birch for the other seat running against Ken Mahoney. Thank you, Kurt.
Well, let's go in because there's two other big ones that we got to get to. We're running a little short on time here. Let's look at the Fred Birch running against the Democrat county chairman Mahoney. Go ahead, because you're a little biased here, but we're all biased. That's why we're here.
I am very biased. Fred is a close friend of mine, and I'm his campaign manager. And I would say that if you like what you're getting, you ought to keep what you're doing. But I don't know how anybody can like what our county commissioners are doing right now.
Well, the county chairman Mahoney did very specifically say that they didn't violate the FOIA and Freedom of Information Act rules. They did. He very specifically said that we were totally transparent in the Brookhaven deal, and only with a citizen-funded lawsuit were we able to find out that there was another $1.5 million pumped out.
If I think he votes to be liked, and Fred Birch will not vote to be liked.
Fred's a rough guy. Fred's a Navy captain. I don't think that Muskegon County, in the past, by its voting patterns, deserves people of the quality of Alan Jagger, Mark Molitor, and Fred Birch. I just hope that we're able to bring them in. Is that a little biased? Kurt, your thoughts?
Very objective, Jim.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, we're running short. Kurt, you want to comment on my blather or Andy's blather?
Again, I fully support Ken Mahoney, yet I do understand and continue to affirm the idea of changing candidates.
Oh, well, isn't that interesting? Okay. And there's one other big one out there. Mark Molitor. Good golly. Mark Molitor, who's a vice president of engineering of SAF Holland, one of the bigger and more important companies in town. An extremely bright guy. If you ever get a chance to talk to Mark or go to his website, very much like Navy Captain Fred Birch. Very, very bright guy running against a guy who's just truly, I must say, it looks like he has never been and never done any homework before he attends a county commission meeting, and that is Ben Cross. This has in the past been a Democrat district, although very slightly so. I think Mark Molitor is going to win this district because he's giving people a real choice, and he's very specific. Okay, guys, got to go quick because we're running out of time.
I might agree with you, but for coattails.
Okay, there we go.
I have no opinion on that race.
Seriously?
Except that I like Mark Molitor a lot.
Okay, all right. Well, look, guys, thank you. You've been, as far as I'm concerned, wonderful guests here, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I would really like to have you both come back next Sunday, and we'll do a recap of how brilliant or not so brilliant we have been on this pre-election morning. You can listen to the show. Of course, this show and on EyeOnMuskegon.com. It's recorded. I usually put it online early afternoon on Sundays, and you can obviously take that link and go to it at any time in the future. It's EyeOnMuskegon, all one word, .com. I would just like to say one final thing about this election. Again, if you think that Muskegon County is wonderfully run, then vote for the incumbents. If you think that the decisions that are being made in Muskegon County are good for jobs, are good for your children, are good for the finances in the future, then vote for the incumbents. If you think not, then take a look at those incumbents and give them a thought otherwise. A couple other things. We remain on TV every Monday night, 8 to 9:30 on TV 38 or Comcast 397. And again, hey, thanks to Brian, Andy, Kurt, the entire crew here at KBZ, and all you wonderful listeners out there. We appreciate you very much. Get well soon, Oscar. We do miss you. And hey, like I said, next Sunday we are going to recap the election.
I'll be happy to be here.
Sounds like fun.
As Andy has said, I'm awful at telling people our phone number. It's 231-830-3109. Be prepared for next week. You can pepper us with questions. We're still working a little bit trying to get the get everything worked out as far as phone calls are concerned. But what we're going to do next week is we're going to look at how this election will affect us going forward here in Michigan and here in Muskegon County. So we're not just going to look at the same stuff you've been hearing all week after this big election. We're going to look at how it's going to affect us here. So, hey, folks, have a great week here in our little piece of heaven. Next week, we'll put the eye on you, Muskegon.
Oh, don't you know? Oh, don't you love him sometimes? Yeah, boy. You love me sometime.
I knew I had a problem, but I didn't know what to do about it.
I tried counting calories, I took pills, eating, and then more eating.
I really wanted to stop, but nothing could make me stop.
At one point, it was so bad that I just felt like giving up.
I felt so alone.
Like nobody else could possibly understand.
We understand. We're Overeaters Anonymous, and we have helped thousands of people just like you.
People who want to stop their compulsive eating and start living a healthy, rewarding life.
Overeaters Anonymous, help me get my life back.
Now I eat in a way that's healthy and good for me.
I never realized what I was missing out on.
With OA, I am living again and loving it.
Start living the life you deserve with help from Overeaters Anonymous. Find us on the web at oa.org.
The Talk of Muskegon is News Talk 1090, WKBC Muskegon, and heard 24 hours a day on WOOD HD2 Muskegon.
33309.
This is WKBC Muskegon and WOOD HD2 Muskegon.
It's the first Sunday of the month. It's November 4th, and good morning. You've tuned into the Polka Melodies. I'm Tom Sanaki, your West Michigan polka DJ, and the first Sunday of the month means there's a polka dance today at Tatra Hall. We'll be featuring Rodney Beyer and his polka pals at 4 o'clock this afternoon until 7 this evening. I'd like you to join us today at Tatra Hall.
Hello, hello, hello. What a wonderful